Life's too short to be playing games like these, convincing myself there is something about it, when there isn't. Unfortunately, this just confirmed my fears that Obsidian is dead. Thought maybe Avowed was an anomaly, but unfortunately it seems like soulless corpo pride parade feminist agenda style is the new Obsidian, because Outer Worlds 2 just confirmed it. Played the game for about 7 or 8 hours on very hard, paying attention to every little thing, because I was really happy to get the PC back from the repair shop, and what better way to commemorate that than with a first-person RPG. Unfortunately, nothing to be happy about here. Tapping out early. This first impression is going to be the only video for Outer Worlds 2. This is not a full review, you dubious bastards. Should we start with the positive? Writing is solid from what I've seen so far, even though it is quite predictable where the main story is going to take us in terms of the main villain. Or is she? Let me guess, she has some kind of a save the universe plan in the end, and we are going to have to choose if her plan is good enough to join her. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. Either way, it's not a bad premise at all, due to all the different factions having their own regimes. Sets up quite a few possibilities. Earth Directorate, of which the main character is a part of, is a regime that doesn't like other regimes basically, and sends special squads to deal with them. Kinda like the USA. But DeVry decides to turn her back to Earth Directorate in the middle of the mission and sacrifices the team in the process. Interesting and surprising spin.
Boy, damn it! Can't you get anything right? You were supposed to be dead already! How is it possible you keep stumbling your way through things that would kill a more competent agent, and then emerge unscathed on the other side? It's infuriating! It's an embarrassing miscalculation on my part is what it is. No matter. It's one I'm about to rectify.
Characters from the brief 7-hour experience are a mixed bag. First team that we started the game with is quite well composed in terms of variety, their beliefs, personalities and their way of communicating with the commander, meaning you. Good stuff. Except that one member, Jensen, is just there for some reason, don't know why, can't be communicated with.
Ready to move out, Commander.
What was with all that back there with DeVries? You know I meant nothing by it, yet you dressed me down when she was in the wrong? Taking her side over me? Of course, Commander, if that's how you want it to be. But you gotta
Progressing more, I've started to see a pattern emerging, similar one like in Avowed, but to a lesser degree. Take this with a grain of salt, because later it might be a different story to what I'm about to say now, which is a simple, indisputable fact from my time with the early game. I hope I'm wrong and things change for the better later. Females hold most leadership and positions of importance roles, from what I've seen so far, and do tend to act more superior, occasionally blatantly bringing down males to their face, while males, usually outside of a few exceptions, appear a bit weaker, insecure and dumb at times. I've seen couple situations only where it was reversed. There was one female recruit that wasn't too bright and had a male supervisor, but even in that scene there was another male that killed himself in a terribly stupid way, a bit funny way too. Personally, I don't have any problem with strong females in games, no matter their position and importance. Make it all female game as long as they are well written and diverse in personalities. Someone like DeVries in the early game is a well written character with depth and quirks. A lot of others aren't. They have become predictable. More encounters I've seen, the more predictable it became. Not saying everyone is the same, far from it. But there are way too many similarities between a lot of the female characters that at times seems like they have become generic token characters to fulfill the agenda. Maybe later on females start to vary more. I would hope so. Early on quite a bit of them are butch and more capable when male partner is next to them, but it isn't nearly as bad as in Avowed. Then again, I've played Avowed from start to finish, so there was more time to experience such discrepancies. Don't know how Outer Worlds 2 is later. Maybe it evens out a bit, or maybe it gets worse. Let me know in comments. With males being the way they are, what the writers don't understand is that they make them even more compelling, because they are so much more flawed and have more screen presence due to their weaknesses. So if this is an attempt to devalue some of the males, they make them far more compelling because of the effort to devalue them. so they get to have more depth of character, like Milver Street compared to Carr.
A surprisingly good point, especially from you. She only forbade us using our own personnel. Be a whole other matter were a stranger to happen to aid one of us. But which? Well, you seem an observant sort, so I expect you'll tire of Milver Street's bluster soon enough. Come see me before agreeing to whatever absurdity he proposes. Unlike him, I have some work actually befitting your time. I'll be waiting.
Or the insecure dude in the booth.
Hey, you there! Come over here at once! What are you doing here? Why aren't you at your post? Has this whole facility gone mad? Something awful has happened. We must be on our guard. Security ops cannot even be reached despite all of my attempts. This should be... The automechs all returned to their charging stations and deactivated. And then there was the explosion. Your voice. You're the one I spoke to over the intercom. Praise be the matriarch that I was not fooled by your false tongue. What? I've never heard anyone else admit to such a thing. You are braver than I. My cowardice is only superseded by my ability to accrue demerits.
Simply more interesting, and with it create more interesting conversations and events. These writers don't understand that they are doing a disservice to females in games by making politics dictate how things should be structured. Instead, we get what has now become a generic female. There are also uninteresting male characters, to be fair, like Commander Torres and the cowboy that appeared in one side quest, who are mostly robotic, perfect language and lack of personality dudes, which is disappointing. Boring to listen to. So it's not exclusively females that have bland writing, but are more predictable. And there is also lack of any sort of brotherhood male type friendship. That's why I say that characters are a mixed bag. Companions that I've seen so far, especially at the very beginning, were an interesting bunch for as long as that lasted. Niall's personality progression is quite interesting too. I think they did a nice job portraying that. Now to talk a bit about the quests and the dialogue. Dialogue system is quite good. There's plenty of things to like here, and there are proper role-playing elements that can be used to get what we want, depending on the character that we have created. Not every option is a guaranteed success though, even if we have unlocked it. It might just unlock some interesting unique dialogue that can potentially lead to more things. There is also the importance of gathering information, which unlocks further dialogue options. So there are few ways to get what we want, but not every unlock is a guaranteed success. Dialogue system and dialogue writing is probably the strongest aspect of Outer Worlds 2 that I've seen in the early game. If only personalities would be more interesting across the board, it would be even better. Due to the lack of personalities, dialogue tends to drag on a bit at times, even though there is very little filler stuff, which is good. However, another problem with dialogue not being able to hold up interest as much even with solid writing are the facial animations that are bad. Very disappointing. Very little emotion shown in most situations I've encountered. Also, lots of NPCs that aren't that important look quite mediocre. Distinct lack of details and liveliness. Just look at these random NPCs. Bonus points if you notice something strange here that I'm about to do a video on. Here are the clips.
It all sounds so pointless and horrible.
It gets results. We're here, aren't we?
This takes me to the Outer Worlds 2 world and art style. If you've noticed from these couple clips is how dead the world is. Not the bonus points things I meant earlier, but still if you noticed it, good job. Not that difficult though, NPCs do very little. It's not a living, breathing world, but quite a boring static one. Even the locations are not as detailed as I would expect from a first-person RPG. Couple are nice, don't get me wrong, but most side structures and locations I've encountered on the first island are bland and uninspiring. What's good is that the loot is not random and that there are lots of unique weapons and armor pieces scattered around. Some unique information can be also obtained and then used in the conversations. What interests me how is the world building, cause it has the potential to be good due to all the factions and choices we could potentially make. Let me know in the comment section. However, the world suffers from the same problem as Avowed. It's a first-person RPG with no atmosphere, and part of the problem is the art style. Probably the main problem. One of the things that first-person RPGs can do better than others is the atmosphere because of the perspective. Somehow Obsidian can't do that anymore. And I think the art style is the problem. It's hard to create a meaningful atmosphere when the world looks like it desperately wants to be a part of the Pride Parade. It just can't invoke ominous, dread, melancholy, fear, excitement and similar emotions, and it's a big problem. Clown-looking world but without the actual clowns. Look at something like Borderlands games that use somewhat similar but not as colorful art style, and it populates the world with appropriate crazy characters to complement the art style. Instead we get someone like Commander Torres in an armor that looks like as if a kid spilled all of its colors on one spot, but the character itself is as bland as they come. There's very little consistency in such a world. Maybe later worlds do a better job, but knowing Outer Worlds 1, I highly doubt it. Another thing that bugged me is the thievery system. It's bad. First, we can't steal directly from NPCs. We can steal items lying around though. Not a problem, because NPCs don't do a damn thing about it. Entering someone's house while they are looking directly at you makes no difference to them whatsoever. Only if someone is staring at you stealing, that's it. Even patrolling their domain is rare. Then the stolen goods can be freely sold to whoever. No thought went into the crime system. Moving on to gameplay. It's alright. Nothing to write home about though. Combat consists of choosing a weapon, an ability, throwable and two companions, each having an ability. It plays out well enough due to interesting weapons that enhance the playstyles and decent character progression system that allows some flexibility through mods and equipment choices. Combat is one of the things that is going to keep players interested in the game, but it's not that great. Good enough though. Couple issues I have with it. No 180 turn, which can be really annoying when playing with the gamepad. If the enemy charges, then there's not much you can do except block with melee weapons, at least in the beginning. Gore system is a bit strange. It works sometimes nicely, but it rarely triggers. Then there is something like this when the enemy just falls apart from a hit, which looks stupid. Lack of blood is also problematic, as it softens the gore system. Enemies have inconsistent stagger mechanics where they get hit and stagger, after which they go through the same shots like it's nothing, not even flinching anymore. I'm guessing there could be some kind of a poise system, but not a very good one if it plays out like this. Moment I stopped playing the game was when I realized that a lot of the specific side encounters, like against these crabs guarding a cave, are just waves of enemies spawning and attacking. It's the least creative way of doing things that raises any tactical element. Another thing that isn't done well is the difficulty design. I like to challenge myself in games, and while playing on hard difficulties, there's that thing of observing how all the systems work at the highest level. It tells a lot about the game itself and how it holds up in the gameplay department. Unfortunately, hard difficulty means enemies do more damage and spot the player easier, that's it. As uncreative as it can be. Still, there is fun to be had due to lots of unique weapons and combination of playstyles. Character leveling progression from this brief experience seems solid. It's a skill-based system where the character puts points into skills rather than attributes, and these skills unlock unique options whether through dialogue or object interaction. By leveling skills, perk requirements are fulfilled, and there's tons of perks to choose from, which is a good thing. Allows for a nice amount of mixes and matches. There's also a generic equipment system where we get more bonuses depending on the gear type and can slot in mods through crafting. Solid, but nothing brilliant. Before the summary, I have to say that the game performed fine on high settings on PC with 60 frames per second, lock on 1440p. Other Worlds 2 first impression is such that it's a pretty bland first-person RPG that has a couple strong points like the dialogue system, but mostly it hovers around mediocre and decent in all aspects. Maybe the game gets much better later, but my biggest gripes with it, like the art style, is hardly gonna change. It's another Outer Worlds, what can I say? Same lacking first-person RPG that ain't bad at all. That's about it, not enough for me to play it further. Doesn't mean you won't have fun with it or enjoy it, that's all subjective. Just remember, this isn't a full review. Full reviews have been on Patreon and Subscribestar since not too long ago, with the video explaining why in the description. Thanks for watching.
Knew you had my back.
This